Okay guys, so today what we're going to do is we're going to go over some of the properties of ellipses that we didn't have a chance to cover yesterday. Okay, so this is actually from yesterday's notes. Okay, so yesterday's notes looks like the 9.3 ellipses day 1. We're going to scroll all the way down to the first problems that you didn't have to do for homework. Show these right here. So this tells us to write equations in vertex form of the ellipse settled at the origin that has the following characteristics, and they'll give us some of the characteristics. So first of all, the nice thing is because it's settled at the origin, every single value is going to be the point 0, 0. So when you substitute these values in, this would be x minus 0 squared over some number plus y minus 0 squared over some number equals 1. So really, during this point, we're just trying to find out what's going to go underneath x and what's going to go underneath y. And to do that, they gave me some information. So for number 5, they have a vertex at 5, 0 and a co-vertex at 0, negative 3. So let's draw this picture. Okay, I have a vertex at 5, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have a so I'm going to label that vertex. And I have a co-vertex at 0, negative 3. 0, negative 3, that's a co-vertex. And I know I have a center at 0, 0. So my center is at the origin. So for this first one, it's actually relatively simple. You just want to find the distance from the center to the vertex. So for us, that's 5. Okay, so underneath, what goes underneath x, the x value is, that's our 5 value, that's our a value, but we have to store it. For our co-vertex, from center to the co-vertex, that's only a distance of 3. Okay, so what we put underneath y is 3 squared. And then to finish this problem out, we just have to simplify it. X minus 0 squared is the same as x squared. And over, that becomes 25, plus y squared over 9 equals 1. And there's our first equation. Now the second one is where the difficulties start to add up. Okay, so in number 6, the center is still 0, 0. So you're still going to have x squared over a number plus y squared over a number equals 1. Okay, but now they switched up the information that they gave us. So let's draw a picture of this one. Here's my axes. Okay, this one has a vertex, so let's put in our center at 0, 0. Put C for center. This one has a vertex at 0, 4. So 0, 4, here's my vertex. And a focus at 0, 2. So there's my focus. Okay, so if you notice, when I'm looking at my numbers, from the center all the way up to my vertex is 4 units. Okay, because that's how far you go up or down, that's the number that goes underneath y. But we have to square that, so that's where the 16 comes from. Okay, but now when you look at the center, there is no distance. We don't know where the co-vertex is on the axis. So therefore, we have to somehow use the fact that our focus is at 0, 2 to help us out. Okay, so from the center to the focus is a distance of 2. Well, the nice part is, anytime they give us a value of a focus, we can use that focus formula. So the formula for the foci is a squared minus b squared equals c squared. Okay, the question now becomes, is this 16, is it my a value or is it my b value? Which one do I substitute it in for? Well, because it's a vertical ellipse, our foci and our vertices are all vertical, that makes this our a value. So this becomes 16 minus b squared equals my c value that's squared. Well, the c value is the distance from the center to the focus. So that's a distance of 2. So I square that number and I get 4. Now it becomes a simple solving process. I subtract 16 from both sides. So 16s are gone. I get negative b squared equals negative 12. Then when I divide both sides by -1, I get b squared equals 12. I do not have to take the square root because the number that goes underneath the x squared is the b squared value, not the b value. So just put the 12 in there, and this one's done. So an important piece to remember, every time they give you the focus, you can use the formula for the focus. Okay, for number 7, same idea here, but this time instead of a vertex, they give you a co-vertex. Okay, again, we're still centered at 0, 0, so that stays x squared plus y squared equals 1. And let's draw a picture of this. I have the center at 0, 0. A co-vertex at 4, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. So it's center, that's co-vertex, and then a focus at 0, -2. So there's my focus. Okay, so let's take a look at our values. The distance from the center to a co-vertex, 1, 2, 3, 4, is 4. Because I moved left and right to get to that number, that's going to go underneath x, but I have to square it, so I get 16. And then to find how far I go up and down to a vertex, well, that's where I actually have to use the foci or the focus equation. So the distance from the center to the focus is 2. Now let's substitute these values in again. So a squared minus b squared equals c squared. Now this 16 over here, the question is it a vertical ellipse or is it a horizontal ellipse? Well, because my foci are vertical, that means that this is supposed to be a vertical ellipse. That makes 16 my b squared value. So this becomes a squared minus 16 equals, and then c squared, well, what's your c value? What's the distance from the center to the focus, which is 2. Square it, and I get 4. So when you add 16 to both sides, you get a squared equals 20. And that's what we were looking for. We were looking for a squared. That's going to go underneath the y. And this problem is done as well. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to pause the video, give number 8 a shot, and when you finish with it, push play again, and I'll put all the answers up for you. Okay, pause it. Okay, so now we want to check, did we get the picture right? And if you look at this, this has a focus at 5, 0, which is here. But then they tell you you have a vertex at 0, -8. But if you think about it, if the focus goes horizontally, shouldn't the vertex also go horizontally? So in this case, this really isn't a vertex, it's really a co-vertex. So this one was mislabeled. Okay, so let's take a closer look at this. Okay, so let's make this a CV for co-vertex. The distance from the center to the focus is a distance of 5, and the distance from the center to the co-vertex has a distance of 8. Because this is the distance that moves up and down, we're going to take 8 and square it to get 64. That goes underneath y, because that's how far we moved up or down. Now to find the focus, we're going to use our focus equation. So a squared minus b squared equals c squared. In this case, the co-vertex is 64, or whatever, that b squared value is 64. So a squared minus 64 equals my c value when I square it. So 5 squared is 25. So my a squared value is 89. That's what's going to go underneath your a, or your x squared. 89. There we go. Okay, for this next part, we're going to slide all the way down to problem number 21. So when you take a look at problem 21, the directions say, convert the following equations to standard form. Okay, we talked about this the other day. Standard form is ax squared plus by squared plus cx plus dy plus e equals 0. So that's the whole goal, is to get these into this form. Okay? When I look at number 21, the first thing that I want to get rid of are the fractions. Now, we talked about this a number of times this year. To get rid of fractions, you have to multiply by the common denominator. Well, 16 and 9, I don't know what the common denominator is, so what I can do is take my calculator out and just multiply, if it turns on, 16 times 9, and I get 144. So I can multiply all of these by 144. So when I distribute to the first part, I have 144 in the numerator, and I got 16 in the denominator. So 144 divided by 16 gives me a value of 9. So therefore I get 9 multiplied by x minus 3 squared. When I distribute the 144 to the second parentheses, I have 144 in the numerator, 9 in the denominator. So 144, you should be able to guess this by now. When you divide that by 9, you get 16. So this gives you plus 16 multiplied by the quantity y plus 4 squared. And do not forget to distribute that 144 to the 1 as well. So there you go, 144. Now just make sure after you get this stage, you do it in the right order. So the next stage would be to actually distribute or FOIL out the parentheses. So the first one, I have a 9 on the outside. When you do x minus 3 times x minus 3, you get x squared minus 6x plus 9. The plus 16 is on the outside. When you do the multiplication for y plus 4 squared, you get y squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 144. Okay. Standard form up here does not have any parentheses, so we need to get rid of the parentheses in this problem as well. So let's distribute the 9. So that'll give me 9x squared minus 54x plus 81. Let's also distribute the 16. So I get 16y squared plus 128x plus 256 equals 144. Now at the very last step, I just want to make sure it's in the correct order. So when I look back up here, I need the ax squared to come first. So 9x squared comes first. Then I need the by squared. So that's the 16y squared. So plus 16y squared. After the y squared, I need the x term. So I have minus 54x. Then comes the dy term. So the y term is 128y. This should be a y. And then your e value. So let's take a look at our e value, all of our constants. I have an 81, I have a 256, and I have to bring that 144 to the other side, so I have to subtract 144 to the other side. So let's figure that out. I have a positive 81 plus 256 minus 144, and that gives me 193, a positive 193. So I have plus 193 equals 0. You are now in standard form. Alright, let's slide over to number 24. So let's go through the process again. So first step, 24. Get rid of the parentheses, the fractions, by multiplying by the common denominator. Well, I have 13 and I have 17. So when I multiply those, I get 221. That's what I'm going to multiply everything by, 221. Okay? So distribute the 221 to all three terms. 221 divided by 13 gives you 17. X minus 2 squared plus 221 divided by 17 is 13, y minus 6 squared equals, and then 221 multiplied by 1 is 221. Next step, you got it. Do the distribution, or do the FOIL. So you have a 17, and then x minus 2 squared becomes x squared minus 4x plus 4. You have the 13 on the outside. Y minus 6 squared. The product is y squared minus 12x plus 36 equals 21. So 221. Alright. Next step is to distribute. So 17 gets distributed to the parentheses. 17x squared minus 68x plus 68. Distribute to 13. So plus 13y squared minus 156. Y, I keep putting an x in there. So y plus, and then 13 times 36. Let's take that out. 13 multiplied by 36 is 468. So plus 468 equals 221. And now let's just put it in the right order. So x squared comes first. So 17x squared. That's the first one. Then I need the y squared to come second, so plus 13y squared. Then I need the x term to come, so minus 68x, followed by your y term, so minus 156y. And then to finish it out, let's combine these. I got a 68, a 468, and I have to bring 221 to the other side by subtracting 221. Okay, so I have a positive 68 plus 468 minus 221, and I get 315. So plus 315 equals 0. Very good. Okay, give 23 a shot. Make sure you pause it. And then in a couple seconds, I'll put the answers up. So pause it, and then when you're done, push play again. And here is your answer. Make sure you guys take a look, check your work. And then in a few seconds, we'll move on to the last part of today, which will be towards the bottom, which is converting the equations into vertex form. So going the opposite way. So let's finish this off by taking a look at two problems. The first one that we're going to look at is problem 25. This again is very similar to what everything that we've done before with completing the square. So our first process is to group our x's. So when we look at 25, I've got 25x squared and a positive 200x. So let's group them. 25x squared plus 200x plus a space. Okay, now I have two y values. I've got a positive 9y squared and a minus 36y. So let's group those. So plus, in parentheses, 9y squared minus 36y plus a space. Okay, so I have two spaces inside parentheses, so I'm going to make two outside. I have a positive 211. And I have to set it equal to 0. Okay, now in number 25, the x's, I'm not allowed to complete the square because I have a leading coefficient other than 1. I have to get rid of this 25. So if I divide out the 25, I'm left with x squared plus 8x plus a space. Okay, in the second one, I've got to get rid of that leading coefficient of 9, so divide out the 9, factor that out. So plus 9, y squared minus 4y plus a space, plus 2 more spaces, plus 211 equals 0. Okay, Let's look at our b value now. Our b value for this problem is 8. Cut it in half, I get 4. Squared, I get 16. So 16 goes in the first space. But remember, that's not really a 16 because it's being multiplied by this 25. If my calculator would work. Okay, 16 times 25 is really 400. That means on the outside, I have to balance it out within negative 400. Second parentheses are y values. My b value is negative 4. Cut it in half, I get negative 2. Squared, I get 4. However, that's not really a 4 because it's been multiplied by 9, so it's really a 36. So I need a negative 36 on the outside to balance it out. Okay, moving on. I still have a 25. And I can use that b over 2 value to help factor this. So this becomes x plus 4 squared. For the y's, I still have a 9 on the outside. And that b over 2 value is negative 2, so that becomes y minus 2 squared. And at the very end, let's combine all of these values. So I have negative 400 minus 36 plus 211. I have negative 225. So minus 225 equals 0. And this is where people tend to get confused. So these next few steps, please pay attention. There's not supposed to be any number outside of here. This minus 225 does not belong here. So I'm going to slide it over to the other side. So I have a 25, x plus 4 squared, plus 9, y minus 2 squared, equals 225. Okay, now there's two things that are causing problems here. The first one is I'm not allowed to have values outside of the parentheses. And the second problem is I'm not allowed to have it set equal to 225. Ellipses are set equal to 1. So in order to get rid of this and make everything work out nice and easy, I'm going to divide all of these values by 225. Divide by 225. Divide by 225. When you do that, my first parentheses, I have 25 over 225. If I reduce that fraction, so I hit math and reduce the fraction, I'm at 1/9, which means that is left with x plus 4 squared over 9. Plus my second fraction. When I look at my second fraction, I get 9 over 25. So if I type in 9 divided by 225, and I reduce that fraction, 1/25. Or I can write that as y minus 2 squared over 25 equals, and then on the other side, 225 divided by 225 is 1. We have now completed the square and put this ellipse in vertex form. Okay, last but not least, we're going to go to number 27. So give me a few seconds. I'm going to clear out some space here. Should shrink this up a little bit. There we go. Now, if I look at number 27, there's an interesting situation that happens here. Okay, so let's go through this process. Same as before. 27. Let's group my x's. Now, there's an x and there's an x. So, x squared plus 14x plus a space. Now, when you go to group your y's, if you notice, you have a y squared value, you have a quadratic term, but there's no linear term, there's no y value. So that means we're not going to complete the square for this one, we're just going to drop it down. Okay, that makes this problem easier, it has less work. Alright, but I did create a space inside, so I have to put a space outside. I have the minus 51 equals 0. So the only thing I can complete the square for is my x values. So my b value is 14. Cut it in half, I get 7. Square it to get 39. There you go, that goes inside. So outside I need a negative 49. Okay, that's it. You cannot complete the square for the y, so we just keep moving on. I can use that 7 to help factor, so the parentheses factor to x plus 7 squared. I still have the plus 4y squared outside, and then negative 39 and negative 51 give me negative 100 equals 0. Okay, let's slide that negative 100 to the other side. X plus 7 squared plus 4y squared equals 100. And now to make sure that this is set equal to 1, I have to divide everything by 100. Divide by 100, divide by 100, divide by 100. So my final answer is x plus 7 squared over 100 plus 4 over 100 reduces to y squared over 25 equals 1. And there you go. Okay, I know this was a long video, about 26 minutes. So I want you guys to get the other note sheet, the one from the teacher today, and that's going to be your homework, is to finish the Ellipses Day 2 worksheet. If you guys have any questions, make sure you come in to see me, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.